The Labrador Retriever. From fisherman's mate to family legend. The tale of the world's favorite dog. There are dogs that people admire. There are dogs people respect. And then there's the Labrador Retriever, the dog everyone seems to love. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, a city dweller or country folk, allergic to commitment or fully domesticated, the Labrador finds a way into your heart. And usually into your personal space, dripping wet from its latest swim. But how did this friendly, food-obsessed, tail-wagging machine become the most popular dog in the world? To answer that, we need to sail back to a time when labs weren't lounging on couches, but hauling fishing nets in icy seas. Let's clear up the first common misconception. The Labrador Retriever doesn't actually come from Labrador. It comes from Newfoundland, the island next door. Back in the 1700s, fishermen in Newfoundland needed a dog that could handle cold waters, help retrieve fishing nets and fetch anything that fell overboard, including, occasionally, people. They developed a sturdy, medium-sized water dog known as the St. John's dog, the Labrador's direct ancestor. These dogs were athletic, weatherproof, and had a natural love for water. With their short, dense, water-resistant coats and powerful tails, perfect for steering through waves, they became indispensable to the working fisherman. But how did this Canadian canine end up being called a Labrador? Credit goes to English nobles who, in the early 1800s, spotted these impressive dogs on visits to Newfoundland. They brought some back to England, calling them Labrador dogs, possibly because Newfoundland was already taken by a larger breed, or perhaps just because geographical accuracy wasn't their strong suit. Either way, the name stuck, and so did the breed. Once in England, aristocrats, particularly those with a passion for hunting, saw potential in the St. John's dog. They refined it, focusing on its natural retrieving instincts, temperament, and versatility. The Earl of Malmesbury, the Duke of Buccleuch, and other prominent families began dedicated breeding programs, shaping what would become the modern Labrador Retriever. By the late 19th century, the Labrador was firmly established as the go-to gun dog for retrieving game birds, especially ducks. Their soft mouths meant they could carry game without damage, and their eagerness to please made them ideal hunting companions. But labs weren't content to remain in the hunting fields. They had bigger plans, like moving into every household that wanted a dog that could do, well, everything. The Labrador Retriever was officially recognized by the Kennel Club, UK, in 1903 and by the American Kennel Club in 1917. From there, it was only a matter of time before labs would dominate the canine world, not just as hunters, but as family companions, service dogs, and, unofficially, the mascot of wholesome dog ownership. By the late 20th century, the Labrador had become a staple in homes across North America, Europe, and beyond. Its temperament, friendly, gentle, eager to please, made it the ideal family dog. For over 30 consecutive years, the Labrador Retriever held the title of the most popular dog breed in the United States, and for good reason. Labs weren't just pets, they were playmates, helpers, therapy dogs, search and rescue heroes, and sometimes very determined sandwich thieves. A Labrador's appearance is the embodiment of ready for anything. Strong but not bulky, athletic but not wiry, they're built like the all-purpose utility vehicles of the dog world. Their coat, short and dense with an oily underlayer, shrugs off water like a raincoat, allowing them to dive into lakes, rivers, or any muddy puddle they can find. Then there's the famous otter tail, Thick at the base and tapering to a point, it acts as a powerful rudder in the water and a hazard to coffee tables on land. Labs come in three classic colours: black, yellow and chocolate. While some debate exists over whether colour influences temperament, it doesn't officially. Every lab owner knows that beneath that coat is the same heart of gold and an unshakable obsession with food. Their expressive eyes radiate warmth and enthusiasm, often accompanied by that signature open-mouthed, tongue-lolling grin that says, "What are we doing next?" And does it involve snacks? If dogs were politicians, the Labrador would win by a landslide. Every time. They're outgoing, trustworthy, and famously non-confrontational. Labs don't just tolerate strangers, they welcome them, often with a wag so enthusiastic it could power a windmill. This friendliness makes them terrible guard dogs unless you're hoping an intruder gets licked into submission. Labs are eager to please, which makes them highly trainable, especially when treats are involved. They thrive on human interaction and want nothing more than to be part of the family action, whether that's hiking a trail, playing fetch, or supervising dinner preparations closely. But don't mistake their easygoing nature for laziness. Labs are working dogs at heart. They need exercise, both physical and mental, or they'll find their own entertainment, which usually involves chewing something expensive. They're playful well into adulthood, often carrying their puppyish charm and energy long after they've outgrown their puppy-sized paws. The Labrador's versatility is unmatched. Beyond being the ultimate family companion, they've excelled in countless roles. They're the face of guide dogs for the blind, known for their patience and intelligence. In search and rescue, they use their keen noses and determination to locate missing persons. Labs also serve on detection teams, sniffing out everything from narcotics to explosives to illegal agricultural products. And then there's their role as therapy dogs, where their innate gentleness brings comfort to hospitals, schools, and disaster zones. Whatever job you give a Labrador, it takes on with enthusiasm and probably a wagging tail. If the Labrador has one flaw, it's their bottomless stomach. Labs don't just enjoy eating, they see it as a calling. They'll eat anything remotely edible, and sometimes things that aren't. Owners quickly learn that countertops, trash cans, and unattended lunches are all fair game in a lab's eyes. This love of food makes them prone to obesity, which can lead to joint issues, diabetes, and other health concerns. Keeping a lab fit requires discipline, something labs themselves lack when it comes to calories. They're also susceptible to hip and elbow dysplasia, common in larger breeds, as well as progressive retinal atrophy and a few genetic conditions like exercise-induced collapse, EIC. Despite these risks, with proper care, labs are generally healthy and live joyful lives of 10 to 14 years. Years filled with play, loyalty, and the occasional stolen snack. From suburban homes to royal estates, from duck blinds to therapy sessions, the Labrador Retriever remains as beloved today as ever. They appear in movies, commercials, and children's books, not because they're flashy, but because they embody everything we want in a dog: loyalty, kindness, enthusiasm, and a zest for life's simplest pleasures. Whether it's a game of fetch that never seems to tire them, a swim in any body of water they can find, or just resting their head on your lap with those hopeful eyes, labs remind us daily why they've earned their place as the world's favorite dog. The Labrador Retriever's story isn't about dramatic heroics or royal exclusivity. It's about being there. For work, for play, for family. They're the dog that will chase a ball until your arm gives out. The one who will greet you like a hero every time you return from the grocery store. The companion who'll sit patiently while your child reads aloud, or who'll happily dive into a lake just because it's Tuesday. In a world that changes fast, the Labrador remains reassuringly constant. Always friendly, always faithful, always ready for whatever comes next. And if what comes next involves food, well, even better. The French Bulldog. How a tiny bat-eared charmer took over the world and your couch. If the Labrador Retriever is the friendly neighbor waving at everyone, the French Bulldog is that effortlessly cool friend who shows up late, steals the spotlight, and makes it look easy. Small, sturdy, and packed with personality, the French Bulldog, or Frenchie to its many fans, has become a global sensation. But behind those big eyes and trademark ears is a history that's as surprising as the sounds they make while sleeping. Let's dive into how a little dog with a big attitude became the king and queen of city apartments, Instagram feeds, and celebrity laps. Our story doesn't actually start in France. Shocking, I know. In the mid-1800s, during Britain's Industrial Revolution, bulldogs, yes, the larger, tougher version, were all the rage. But not everyone needed a dog built like a tank. Enter the toy bulldog, a smaller, more companionable version that became popular among lacemakers in Nottingham, England. When machines began replacing traditional lace-making jobs, many of these artisans packed up and moved to France, taking their little bulldogs along for the ride. Now here's where it gets interesting. The French took one look at these pint-sized bulldogs and thought, but let's make them cuter. They began selectively breeding for specific traits, most notably those now iconic bat ears and a compact frame perfect for city living. Voilà! The Bulldog Français was born. A dog designed less for bull baiting and more for being fabulous. By the late 19th century, Frenchies were the accessory in Paris. Forget handbags. If you wanted to be seen in Montmartre or at a smoky cafe, you had a Frenchie by your side. They became the darlings of artists like Toulouse-Lautrec, who featured Frenchies in his paintings. Parisian socialites and ladies of the night, yes, they were particularly popular in certain evening establishments. The upper class, who decided that these quirky little dogs were the perfect addition to their lavish lifestyles. Frenchies were cool before cool was a thing. They were playful, low maintenance, and didn't require a chateau-sized backyard. They were city dogs before city dog was even a concept. In the 1890s, American tourists visiting France fell head over heels for these compact charmers and brought them back to the States. Here's where a bit of drama unfolded. In early dog shows, British judges preferred bulldogs with rose-shaped ears, folded over. But American Frenchie enthusiasts weren't having it. They loved the bat ears, those upright, expressive ears that make the Frenchie look perpetually curious or slightly judgmental. In 1897, the French Bulldog Club of America was formed, the first breed club for Frenchies in the world, and they made it clear: bat ears or bust. This ear war essentially defined the breed standard we know today. By 1913, Frenchies were rubbing paws with high society. At the Westminster Dog Show, a Frenchie named Dimboula won Best of Breed, and soon the French Bulldog was a symbol of elegance and eccentricity, Let's talk aesthetics, because no one mistakes a Frenchie for any other breed. Size, compact and muscular, typically under 28 pounds, a lot of dog in a little package. Ears, the signature bat ears, erect, rounded at the top, and basically satellite dishes for compliments. Face, that unmistakable flat, wrinkled snout, often paired with a slight underbite that gives them a permanent "what's your problem" face. Eyes, big, round and soulful, capable of guilt-tripping you out of your last bite of dinner. Tail, short and either straight or screwed, but always wagging when you walk through the door. Coat colours. Frenchies come in a variety of shades: brindle, fawn, cream, and even exotic but controversial colours like blue and merle. Fun fact: despite their stocky build, Frenchies can't swim. That big head and short legs combo? Not exactly hydrodynamic. If you're looking for a dog that's equal parts comedian and couch potato, meet your match. French bulldogs are famously playful. They love a good game, but they also know when to call it quits, usually after 10 minutes. Affectionate. Velcro dogs by nature, they want to be wherever you are, including the bathroom. Stubborn. Training. A Frenchie is less about commands and more about negotiation. They're smart, but they'll pretend not to understand if it suits them. Quietish. They're not big barkers, but they make up for it with a symphony of snorts, grunts and snores. They thrive on human companionship and don't like being left alone for long. Leave a Frenchie solo too often and you might come home to a scene of creative redecorating. Here's where we get serious for a moment. That cute squished face, it comes with complications. French bulldogs are part of the brachycephalic family, meaning they have short skulls and flat faces. This can lead to brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, BOAS, which makes breathing a challenge, especially in heat or during exercise. Other common health concerns include spinal disorders, thanks to their short, compact bodies, skin fold dermatitis, hip dysplasia, eye issues like cherry eye, and they're notoriously sensitive to temperature extremes, too hot or too cold, and they struggle. Also, Frenchies are almost always delivered via C-section because of their narrow hips and large heads. A reminder that human intervention has shaped this breed in very specific ways. Their average lifespan is around 10 to 12 years, but with good care and air conditioning, they can live happy, snuggly lives. Fun facts to impress at parties. Leonardo DiCaprio, Lady Gaga, The Rock, and Chrissy Teigen are just a few of the many celebrities owned by their Frenchies. Because let's face it, Frenchies run the show. In 2022, the French Bulldog became the most popular dog breed in the US, dethroning the Labrador Retriever after a 31-year reign. They're known as the frog dog because of the way they sprawl out with their legs behind them, a position every Frenchie owner knows well. In 1912, Robert Daniel, a 27-year-old banker, was returning to the United States from France with a brindle French bulldog named Gamin de Piquant, which he had purchased for £150, the equivalent of about $18,000. Sadly, it was in April, and the pair was coming home on the Titanic. James Cameron filmed a scene featuring Gamin for the Titanic film, but he decided to take it out of the final cut. This is definitely not a fun fact, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Rest in peace, Gamin. Today, French bulldogs are everywhere. from city apartments to luxury yachts. Their compact size, charming personality, and low exercise needs make them ideal urban companions. But owning a Frenchie isn't just about the cute factor, it's a commitment to a breed that requires attention, care, and, let's be honest, a tolerance for some serious snoring. They don't fetch, they don't hike, they're not going to herd sheep or guard your house. What they will do is keep you laughing, demand cuddles, and remind you daily that life is better when you take it slow and enjoy the simple pleasures, like a sunny spot on the floor or a well-timed treat. The French Bulldog is proof that you don't need to be big to make a big impact. From humble beginnings in English lace shops to becoming a symbol of Parisian chic and global cool, the Frenchie has charmed its way into millions of homes and hearts. Yes, they snore. Yes, they're dramatic when asked to walk more than 2 blocks. But with a Frenchie by your side, life is never boring. Because behind those bat ears and that squished nose is a dog that knows exactly what it's doing, wrapping you around its tiny paw, one snort at a time. The German Shepherd, the making of a legend in fur and focus. Some dogs were bred to sit on laps, others to chase bulls or herd sheep. But then there's the German Shepherd, a dog that seems born with a sense of duty, like it came into this world already wearing a badge. With its sharp eyes, proud stance, and a brain that could probably outsmart half the neighborhood, the German Shepherd isn't just a dog. It's a force. Yet behind that serious demeanor lies a history filled with passion, purpose, and a little bit of Hollywood glamour. This is the story of how a shepherd's dog from Germany became the symbol of loyalty, intelligence, and bravery across the globe. Our story begins in late 19th century Germany, where a man named Max von Stephanitz looked at the dogs of his homeland and thought, "We can do better." Von Stephanitz wasn't just a dog lover, he was a man obsessed with creating the perfect working dog. At the time, every region in Germany had its own version of herding dogs. Some were fast, others strong, some clever, but none combined all the qualities needed for a true master of the craft. Then in 1899, von Stephanitz found him. At a dog show, he spotted a striking wolf-like dog named Hector Lynxrein. The dog was everything he had envisioned: intelligent, athletic, and fiercely focused. Von Stephanitz bought him on the spot, renamed him Horand von Grafrath, and declared him the foundation of a new breed, the German Shepherd dog. But von Stephanitz wasn't just breeding for looks. He believed that a dog should be defined by its utility and intelligence. If a dog couldn't work, it didn't matter how pretty it was. Under his guidance, the German Shepherd became more than a herding dog. It became a symbol of versatility and discipline. As industrialization spread across Europe, the demand for herding dogs began to decline. But von Stephanitz was no fool. He knew that his dogs needed a new job to stay relevant. When World War I broke out, the German Shepherd found its calling. These dogs served alongside soldiers as messengers, sentries, rescuers, and supply carriers. They navigated trenches, dodged bullets, and delivered messages when human runners couldn't. Their bravery didn't go unnoticed. Allied soldiers were so impressed by the German dogs that many took them home after the war, introducing the breed to new parts of the world. But there was one German Shepherd who would do more for the breed's fame than any battlefield hero. In the rubble of a bombed-out kennel in France, an American soldier named Lee Duncan found a starving German Shepherd puppy. He named him Rin Tin Tin. When Duncan returned to the United States, he didn't just bring home a war survivor, he brought home a future movie star. Rin Tin Tin's intelligence and agility caught the eye of silent film producers, and soon the German Shepherd was leaping across cinema screens, saving damsels and performing stunts that left audiences in awe. Rin Tin Tin became a household name, credited with helping Warner Brothers avoid bankruptcy. At the height of his fame, he received thousands of fan letters a week. The German Shepherd wasn't just respected, it was adored. Thanks to Rin Tin Tin, the breed's popularity exploded in America, and the image of the noble, heroic German Shepherd was cemented in the public imagination. As decades passed, the German Shepherd's resume only grew longer. Police forces, military units, search and rescue teams all saw in this breed a partner, not just a pet. There's something about a German Shepherd's presence that commands respect. Maybe it's the way they stand. Alert, confident, like they're always 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Or maybe it's the way they seem to understand complex commands with a nod, ready to leap into action without hesitation. They became the face of K9 units, sniffing out danger, chasing down criminals and protecting their handlers with unwavering loyalty. In war zones, they detected mines and guarded troops. In disaster zones, they searched for survivors where machines couldn't reach. Yet despite their reputation as serious working dogs, those who truly know German Shepherds understand a secret. Beneath that stoic exterior beats the heart of a goofball who just wants to play fetch and lean into their favorite human for a cuddle. The German Shepherd's appearance is as distinctive as its reputation. A strong, athletic build, a bushy tail that sways with every purposeful step, and ears that stand tall like they're tuned into every sound around them. Their coat, typically a mix of black and tan, gives them that classic on-duty look, though they also come in sable, black, white, and even rare shades like blue or liver. Their eyes, dark and intelligent, seem to assess situations before anyone else in the room does. But this iconic look hasn't come without controversy. Over the years, show breeding introduced exaggerated sloping backs, leading to debates about health and functionality versus aesthetics. Purists argue that the original German Shepherd, built for endurance and work, should never sacrifice ability for appearance. If dogs went to university, the German Shepherd would graduate top of the class and probably correct the professor a few times along the way. What truly defines this breed is its intelligence. German Shepherds don't just follow orders, they understand them. They can learn complex tasks, adapt to new situations, and often anticipate what's needed before being asked. But with great intelligence comes great responsibility. For the owner, that is. A bored German Shepherd is a recipe for chaos. Without mental stimulation, they'll invent their own activities, which might include redecorating your living room or turning your garden into an excavation site worthy of an archaeological dig. They need purpose, whether that's formal training, agility work, or simply playing challenging games. To own a German Shepherd is to engage in a lifelong partnership, a meeting of minds as much as hearts. No legend is without its vulnerabilities. The German Shepherd, despite its strength and stamina, faces several health challenges. Hip and elbow dysplasia have haunted the breed for generations, a result of both genetics and selective breeding practices. Degenerative myelopathy, a progressive spinal disease, is another shadow that can fall over these proud dogs in their later years. Yet with responsible breeding, regular exercise and proper care, many German Shepherds live long, fulfilling lives, remaining active and alert well into their senior years. Their average lifespan hovers around 10 to 13 years, but every one of those years is marked by loyalty that's hard to put into words. Once a German Shepherd bonds with you, it's for life. It's easy to get caught up in the image, the police dog, the military hero, the guard dog watching over its family. But at their core, German Shepherds are, and always have been, companions. They may look imposing, but to their people they are gentle protectors, playful friends, and constant shadows. They live to serve, yes, but also to love. They're the dog that will lie quietly at your feet, always watching, always ready. The one that will nudge your hand when you've had a bad day, sensing emotions you never spoke aloud. The one that would stand between you and the world without a second thought. In many ways, Max von Stephanitz got exactly what he wanted, a dog defined by its usefulness. But what he perhaps couldn't have predicted was just how deeply these dogs would weave themselves into the human heart, not just as workers, but as family. From the quiet fields of Germany to the bustling streets of New York, from war zones to family homes, the German Shepherd has walked beside humanity through some of its greatest challenges and triumphs. It's rare to find a breed so universally respected, admired not just for its abilities, but for its character. Courageous but kind, intelligent but humble, strong but gentle with those it loves. The German Shepherd doesn't need flashy tricks or constant praise. It knows who it is. And perhaps that's what draws us to them, that steadfast reliability in a world that so often changes. At the end of the day, whether wearing a uniform starring in films or simply guarding the backyard from squirrels, the German Shepherd remains what it has always been. A loyal partner, a fearless protector, and a true friend. And if you're lucky enough to earn the trust of one, you'll understand why this breed isn't just respected, it's revered. Someone's getting a bit jealous here. Well, dear dreamer, looks like I'm forced to talk a bit about that cheeky little fluffy ball nestled beside me. 'Cause this boy is a sensitive princess and the master of holding grudges, and he wouldn't forgive me if I didn't mention his eminence. Let me introduce His Majesty, Eddie, the CEO of this company and my faithful guardian who keeps me company when I create these stories for you. The Newfoundland. The tale of a seafaring giant with a hero's heart. Yes, that's you, Ed. Happy now? Some dogs chase sticks. Some guard sheep. And then there's the Newfoundland. A dog that looks at a stormy sea and thinks, better go save someone. Towering in size but tender in spirit, the Newfoundland is a breed that has inspired sailors, poets, and families alike. With paws like paddles and a temperament that could calm the roughest waters, this is a dog born not just to live alongside humans, but to protect them, whether they ask for it or not. Can confirm. So how did this massive, web-footed marvel come to be? Let's set sail to uncover the story of the Newfoundland, the dog who made heroism look effortless. Our story begins on the rugged shores of Newfoundland, Canada, a place where icy winds whip across the Atlantic, and life has always been about survival. Here, fishermen battled the elements daily, and they needed more than just strong nets and sturdy boats. They needed a partner. No one knows exactly how the Newfoundland dog came into existence. Some say it was the result of native dogs mingling with European breeds brought over by explorers, perhaps a mix of Mastiffs, Great Pyrenees, and even Viking bear dogs. Whatever the cocktail of ancestry, nature had a clear goal: create a dog built for the harshest conditions imaginable. And so the Newfoundland was shaped not in show rings or royal courts, but by salt water, cold winds, and hard work. This was a dog designed to haul heavy fishing nets, pull carts laden with supplies, and most famously leap into frigid waters to rescue those unlucky enough to fall overboard. For the fishermen of Newfoundland, these dogs weren't pets. They were crewmates, silent, strong, and always reliable. Every inch of the Newfoundland is crafted for its original purpose. Its massive frame wasn't just for show. I mean, look at you, Eddie. This is ridiculous. It gave the strength to drag a drowning man or haul cargo without complaint. But it was more than muscle that made this dog a marvel. The Newfoundland's thick, double-layered coat acted like a waterproof jacket, keeping icy waters at bay. Its tail worked like a rudder, steering it through choppy seas. And then there were the feet, broad and webbed, nature's perfect swimming tools. These dogs didn't just tolerate water, they belonged to it. It wasn't long before tales of their aquatic heroics spread beyond the shores of their homeland. Sailors began taking Newfoundlands aboard ships, knowing that if disaster struck, there was no better lifeline than the one with fur. By the early 19th century, the Newfoundland's reputation had crossed oceans. In England, the breed caught the attention of artists and writers who were captivated by the idea of such a noble creature. One of the most famous admirers was Lord Byron, the romantic poet known for his love of both words and animals. When his beloved Newfoundland boatswain died, Byron was so heartbroken that he wrote an epitaph longer and more heartfelt than most humans would receive. Boatswain's tomb still stands today, larger than Byron's own, a testament to the bond between man and dog. But this wasn't just a poet's fancy. The Newfoundland earned its place in real-world heroism. Stories poured in of Newfoundlands diving from docks to pull children from rivers, of dogs dragging lifeboats to shore, of shipwrecked sailors crediting their survival to these gentle giants. In fact, the breed became so synonymous with water rescue that many European lifeguard stations began employing them officially. Even today, if you find yourself swimming off the coast of Italy and a large, furry shadow appears beside you, don't panic. It's probably a Newfoundland on duty. Standing next to a Newfoundland is a humbling experience. They don't just walk into a room, they arrive. Massive, yes, but never intimidating. Sorry, mate. There's a softness in their eyes that immediately tells you this dog isn't thinking about dominance or danger. It's wondering if you need a hug or perhaps a rescue. Most people recognize the classic black coat, but Newfoundlands also come in brown, grey, and the striking black and white pattern known as Landseer, named after the painter Sir Edwin Landseer, who immortalized these dogs in his artwork. Their faces are broad and expressive, often wearing a look of quiet wisdom, like they've seen a lot, saved a few lives, and still have patience for your silly human problems. Of course, owning a Newfoundland comes with certain realities. Drool, for one. I'm covered in it, thank you very much. A Newfie doesn't just drink water, it wears it, sharing generous amounts with your floors, walls, and unsuspecting guests. Then there's the fur, which finds its way into every corner of your home, no matter how often you brush them. But those are small prices to pay for living with a legend. Despite their size, or perhaps because of it, Newfoundlands are famously gentle. They've earned the nickname nanny dogs, thanks to their natural patience and protective instincts around children. They don't bark much, there's no need. A Newfie knows that presence alone is enough to command respect. They move through life with a calm confidence, rarely rattled, always composed. But don't mistake calmness for laziness. If action is required, say someone is splashing too frantically in a pool, your Newfoundland will be there in a heartbeat, sometimes even when you don't need saving. Many Newfie owners can tell stories of being rescued during perfectly safe swims, gently but firmly towed back to shore by a determined dog who simply wasn't taking chances. As with many giant breeds, the Newfoundland carries the burden of its size. Their hearts are huge in every sense, but unfortunately, that includes a predisposition to heart conditions, particularly subvalvular aortic stenosis, SAS. Hip and elbow dysplasia are common, as are joint issues that come with supporting such a large frame. Their lifespan, sadly, reflects these challenges, averaging around 8 to 10 years. Heat is another enemy. That magnificent coat and thick build, ideal for cold Atlantic waters, becomes a liability in warmer climates. Newfoundlands thrive where there's cool air, and preferably a body of water nearby. Yet despite these hurdles, every Newfie owner will tell you the same thing. The years you get with them are worth every slobbery kiss, every fur tumbleweed, and every vet visit. There's no shortage of Newfoundland legends. One dog, Seaman, accompanied Lewis and Clark on their expedition across America, proving invaluable as a guard and companion in uncharted territory. Another tale speaks of a Newfie named Rigel, who allegedly swam for hours after the sinking of the Titanic, alerting rescuers to lifeboats lost in the dark. It is alleged, but to me it sounds about right. While some stories blend into myth, the core truth remains. This is a breed defined by acts of quiet heroism. Even today, Newfoundlands serve in water rescue teams, their instincts as sharp as ever. They don't seek medals or recognition. A job well done, a pat on the head, and maybe a snack, that's all a Newfie needs. I mean, if by a snack we mean a half a chicken. The Newfoundland isn't a dog for everyone. It's a commitment measured not just in pounds of food and fur, but in understanding what it means to live with a creature whose very nature is to give strength, protection, affection. They are the gentle giants who would rather wade into danger than see harm come to those they love. They are the silent watchers by the lake, the furry lifeguards who take their duties seriously even if you don't. But perhaps the greatest gift of the Newfoundland is not its strength nor its swimming prowess, but its ability to remind us of the quiet power of kindness. In a world that often celebrates speed and flash, the Newfie stands as a testament to patience, loyalty, and the simple act of being there when it matters most. So, if you ever find yourself walking along a rocky shore and spot a massive, shaggy figure gazing out at the waves, know that you're in the presence of more than just a dog. You're standing beside a legend. You are my little legend, Eddie. If you're still awake at this point, let me know who's lying beside you and is guarding you right now, or used to. Sending love to all of you and your fluffy friends. The beagle, the merry hound who followed its nose into history and your picnic basket. Some dogs guard, some herd, but the beagle was born to follow a scent wherever it may lead, which more often than not is straight into trouble with a wagging tail. With a bark that can wake the neighbours and a charm that makes it impossible to stay mad for long, the beagle has trotted its way through history as a hunter, a companion, and, let's be honest, a professional food thief. But where did this floppy-eared bundle of joy and stubbornness come from? And how did it go from royal hunting packs to modern family couches and countertops? Let's rewind a few centuries and find out. Like many old breeds, the beagle's true origin story is a bit hazy, probably because its ancestors were too busy chasing scents to sit still for a proper history lesson. What we do know is that small scent hounds have existed for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks and Romans both kept packs of little hounds designed to track rabbits and other small game on foot. These weren't horses and horn hunting dogs. These were dogs for hunters who preferred a slower, steadier chase. Fast forward to medieval England and the word beagle starts to appear, possibly derived from the French word begueule, referring to the baying sound hounds make when on a scent. And if you've ever heard a beagle in full voice, you'll know exactly why that name stuck. Early beagles weren't quite the dogs we know today. Some were tiny enough to fit in a hunter's pocket, literally called pocket beagles. Queen Elizabeth I was said to have owned these miniature hounds, entertaining guests by letting them trot daintily around the royal table. But while they were cute, they had a job to do: hunt. The beagle we recognize today really took shape in the 18th and 19th centuries, when fox hunting was all the rage in England. While larger hounds chased foxes, beagles were the go-to dog for hare hunting. Their job was simple but demanding. Follow the scent trail of a hare across fields and forests, baying loudly to let hunters know they were on track. The beagle's smaller size made it perfect for hunters on foot rather than horseback, allowing country folk to enjoy the sport without needing a stable full of horses. And that nose, oh, that legendary nose, became the star of the show. The beagle's sense of smell is second only to the bloodhound, with around 220 million scent receptors, compared to a human's paltry 5 million. Once a beagle picks up a scent, it's as if the world disappears. There's only the trail and the thrill of the chase. But while their talents in the field were undeniable, it was their cheerful temperament that began to win hearts beyond the hunting grounds. By the mid-1800s, beagles had made their way to America, where they quickly became favorites among hunters and families alike. The American Kennel Club officially recognized the breed in 1885, and from there, the beagle's popularity soared. It wasn't long before this merry little hound moved from hunting packs to household companion. People loved the beagle's manageable size, friendly disposition, and those soulful eyes capable of convincing even the sternest owner to share a sandwich. But it wasn't just hunters and families who noticed the beagle's talents. Their keen nose and persistence made them ideal for more modern jobs, especially when it came to sniffing out things humans would rather stay hidden. Today, many beagles are employed in roles their medieval ancestors could never have imagined. At airports and border controls around the world, you'll find beagles working in what's known as the Beagle Brigade. With their non-threatening appearance and superior sniffing abilities, they're perfect for detecting contraband food, plants, and other agricultural items in luggage. Passengers are far less intimidated by a wagging beagle than, say, a German shepherd, and the beagle is just as effective at finding that undeclared salami in your suitcase. Their work ethic is relentless when a scent is involved, though getting them to listen when you want something is another matter entirely. There's a reason cartoonists and advertisers love the beagle. With its floppy ears, big brown eyes, and perpetually wagging tail, it's the embodiment of approachable charm. Most beagles sport the classic tricolour coat, a mix of black, white, and tan, but they also come in a variety of other houndy hues, including lemon, red and white, and chocolate. They're sturdy little dogs built for endurance rather than speed. A beagle isn't going to win a sprint, but it will happily follow a scent trail for miles without breaking a sweat, or paying the slightest attention to your calls for it to come back. And then there's that signature bay, a deep, echoing voice that seems impossibly large for such a compact body. It was bred for the hunt, but today it's more often heard when a beagle spots a squirrel, smells dinner, or simply feels that the neighborhood has been too quiet for too long. Beagles are often described as merry, and no word fits better. They're friendly, curious, and full of playful energy. They love people, adore other dogs, and generally approach life with the enthusiasm of a child let loose in a candy store. But with that joy comes a healthy dose of stubbornness. Beagles are independent thinkers. After all, they were bred to follow their noses, not commands. Training a beagle requires patience, creativity, and a pocket full of treats. They're motivated by food more than praise, and if they catch a whiff of something more interesting than your training session, which is likely, they're gone. Mentally or physically. They're also notorious escape artists. If there's a hole in your fence, a beagle will find it. If there isn't, they might dig one. Life with a beagle is a constant balance between admiring their cleverness and trying to stay one step ahead of it. Beagles are generally healthy, hardy dogs with a lifespan of 12 to 15 years. But they do have a few weaknesses, chief among them, food. Their love of eating is legendary. Left unsupervised, a beagle will happily raid trash cans, counters, backpacks, anything that might contain an edible morsel or something vaguely resembling one. This appetite makes them prone to obesity, so owners need to be vigilant about diet and exercise. A fit beagle is a happy beagle, but try convincing them that fewer treats is a good thing. They're also prone to ear infections thanks to those floppy ears that trap moisture and dirt, especially after a good romp through the underbrush. But overall, they're tough little hounds who, with proper care, will stay active and playful well into old age. Few breeds have achieved the kind of pop culture fame that the beagle has. Of course, there's Snoopy, the world's most famous beagle, not that he ever acted like one. Charles Schulz's creation may have fancied himself a World War I flying ace, but beneath that imagination was the heart of a true beagle. Independent, adventurous, and always hungry. Beyond cartoons, beagles have appeared in countless films, books, and even politics. President Lyndon B. Johnson famously had 2 beagles named him and her. But fame hasn't gone to their heads. The beagle remains what it has always been. A cheerful, determined little hound who sees every day as an opportunity for exploration, and maybe a snack or 2 along the way. The beagle's story is one of joy, persistence, and a refusal to take life too seriously. It doesn't matter whether they're tracking a hare through the English countryside, sniffing out contraband at customs, or stealing a sandwich from your kitchen counter. The beagle approaches every task with enthusiasm and a wagging tail. Yes, they're stubborn, yes, they're loud, and yes, they'll follow their nose straight out of your yard if you're not careful. But they'll also greet you every morning like it's the best day ever. They'll make you laugh with their antics, charm strangers on every walk, and curl up beside you at the end of a long day, dreaming of the next great scent adventure. Because at the heart of every beagle is a simple philosophy. Life is meant to be sniffed, savoured, and enjoyed, preferably with a snack. The Rottweiler. From Roman roads to family guardian. The true story of the loyal protector. When you see a Rottweiler, you notice broad chest, confident stride, and those deep, watchful eyes that seem to size up every situation before deciding it's safe to wag that tail. To some, that look inspires caution. To others, the ones lucky enough to share their lives with a Rottie, it's pure reassurance. Because once a Rottweiler decides you're theirs, you've got a protector, a clown, a workmate, and a best friend rolled into one solid package. But where did this iconic dog come from? Why does it carry such a reputation for strength and loyalty? Let's wind the clock back, way back, to the days when empires rose and fell, and dogs like the Rottweiler walked beside soldiers and merchants alike. The story of the Rottweiler doesn't begin in Germany, as many assume. It starts under the shadow of Roman banners nearly 2,000 years ago. When the Roman legions marched across Europe, conquering lands and expanding their empire, they didn't just bring swords and shields. They brought dogs. Big, sturdy, mastiff-type dogs bred to drive cattle, guard supplies, and even stand beside soldiers in battle. As the Romans advanced into what is now southern Germany, they founded settlements to support their campaigns. One such town, built atop the ruins of ancient Roman baths, would later be called Rottweil. When the empire eventually crumbled, the dogs stayed behind, adapting to a new life in a land of merchants, butchers, and farmers. These descendants of Roman drover dogs found their true calling in the bustling markets of medieval Rottweil. By the Middle Ages, Rottweil had become a thriving trade centre, known for its cattle markets. Livestock needed to be moved over long distances, and valuable meat and money needed protection along the way. Enter the Rottweiler Metzgerhund, literally the butcher's dog of Rottweil. These dogs were prized for their ability to herd cattle, keeping even the most stubborn beasts in line with a mix of quiet authority and sheer physical presence. But their job didn't stop there. Once the cattle were sold and the butcher loaded his purse with coins, it was the Rottweiler's job to guard that fortune on the journey home. It's said that butchers would tie their money bags around their dog's neck, knowing no thief in his right mind would dare try his luck against such a guardian. These weren't just working dogs, they were partners in trade, trusted with livelihoods and respected throughout the region. As the centuries rolled on and technology advanced, cattle driving by dog became a thing of the past. Trains and motorized transport replaced drovers, and the need for the butcher's dog began to fade. By the late 19th century, the Rottweiler faced extinction, not because it wasn't valued, but because its job had vanished. For a while, only a handful of enthusiasts kept the breed alive, recognizing that this dog's talents extended far beyond herding cattle. And as fate would have it, the modern world soon discovered new roles perfectly suited for the Rottweiler's unique combination of strength, intelligence, and loyalty. As police forces and military units grew in the early 20th century, they needed dogs capable of discipline, courage, and versatility. The Rottweiler fit the bill perfectly. With a natural instinct to protect and a calm, confident demeanor, Rottweilers quickly became staples in canine units, serving as guard dogs, trackers, and even messengers during wartime. Their ability to assess threats without unnecessary aggression made them invaluable partners in law enforcement and security. But while they thrived in uniform, Rottweilers also began to prove themselves as loving family companions. Behind that stoic expression was a playful, goofy side that only those within the inner circle got to see. They weren't just guardians, they were gentle giants with their people. A Rottweiler might patrol your yard like a soldier, but inside it would happily roll onto its back for belly rubs and try to sit in your lap, seemingly unaware of its size. There's no mistaking a Rottweiler. Compact yet powerful, every muscle seems to say, "Hey, I'm in control." With a gleaming black coat marked by distinctive rust-colored patches, a broad head, and a gaze that seems to look right through nonsense, the Rottweiler carries an air of quiet confidence. Unlike breeds that bark first and think later, the Rottweiler watches. It calculates. It knows when to step forward and when not to waste energy. Its docked tail, once a practical feature to prevent injury during herding, became part of the breed's iconic silhouette. Though in many countries today, docking is no longer practiced, and Rottweilers proudly wag their natural tails, a perfect counterbalance to their serious expression. But despite the imposing exterior, there's always a softness reserved for family. Those deep brown eyes can go from alert to affectionate in a heartbeat, especially when food or favorite humans are involved. The world often gets the Rottweiler wrong. Too many headlines, too many myths. But anyone who's shared a home with a Rottie knows the truth. This is a dog defined not by aggression, but by loyalty and calm confidence. Rottweilers were bred to think independently, to make decisions while herding or guarding without constant direction. This gives them a quiet intelligence, a sense of responsibility they carry with pride. They're naturally protective, yes, but not reckless. A well-bred, well-trained Rottweiler doesn't look for trouble. It waits, watches, and only acts when truly necessary. With family, they are affectionate shadows, following you from room to room, leaning gently against your leg as if to remind you they're always there. With children, they're patient and surprisingly gentle, often taking on the role of a watchful older sibling. But they do require guidance. A Rottweiler without structure is like a brilliant mind without direction. It might decide to run the household itself, and good luck arguing otherwise. As robust as Rottweilers appear, they're not immune to the common challenges faced by large breeds. Hip and elbow dysplasia can affect them, as can certain heart conditions like aortic stenosis. Another concern is osteosarcoma, a type of bone cancer more prevalent in Rottweilers than in many other breeds. Their average lifespan ranges from 8 to 10 years, though with careful breeding, proper diet and regular exercise, many live longer, active lives. And while they thrive on physical activity, it's their mind that needs work just as much. A bored Rottweiler isn't destructive out of malice. It's simply a working dog without a job. And that energy has to go somewhere. Give them purpose, training, tasks, even just structured play, and you'll have a happy, balanced companion. Today, Rottweilers continue to wear many hats. They serve in police forces, work as search and rescue dogs, and even assist as therapy animals, proving that their strength is matched by sensitivity. In family homes, they guard not just property but hearts, forming bonds that are deep and unshakable. Once you've earned a Rottweiler's trust, you have a friend who will stand by you through anything. Yet they still battle misconceptions, often judged by their appearance, rather than their character. But those who know, know. The Rottie community is filled with proud owners who wouldn't trade their gentle giants for anything in the world. Because once you've seen a 100-pound dog delicately carry a toddler's toy in its mouth, or try to wedge itself onto a sofa half its size just to be near you, you understand. This is a breed defined not by fear, but by love, paired with strength. The Rottweiler's story is one of resilience, adaptability, and unwavering loyalty. From Roman battlefields to butcher shops, from guarding cattle to guarding families, this breed has walked beside humanity for centuries. Not as a weapon, but as a protector. They don't seek attention, they don't demand praise. A Rottweiler simply does what it was born to do. Stand steady in a world that often wavers. Yes, they require respect, training, and understanding. But give them that, and they'll give you everything in return. Because behind that powerful frame and serious gaze is a dog with a heart as grand as its history. A dog that doesn't just guard your home, it guards your trust. And once you've been loved by a Rottweiler, you'll wonder how you ever felt truly safe without one. The Poodle. From duck hunter to high society. The untold story of the curly genius. Say the word poodle, and most people picture a perfectly groomed dog prancing through a Parisian street, looking like it's late for a fashion show. But don't let the posh exterior fool you. The poodle wasn't bred to sit in a handbag or win beauty contests. This is a dog that once leapt into freezing rivers, outwitted game birds, and worked for its living long before it became a style icon. Beneath every carefully clipped coat is a story of survival, intelligence, and surprising grit. So, let's unravel the curls and get to the truth about the poodle, the dog that proved you can be both brains and beauty. Despite its reputation as France's national dog, the poodle didn't actually originate in France. Plot twist, it's German by birth. The word poodle comes from the German Pudel, short for Pudelhund, meaning splashing dog. And that's exactly what the poodle was bred to do. Splash. Or, more accurately, retrieve ducks from cold waters. Yes, that's right. The poodle was a water retriever, a working dog through and through. Long before it graced royal courts or luxury salons, it was jumping into lakes, fetching game for hunters, and proving itself as one of the most effective gun dogs in Europe. It was the French, however, who truly fell in love with the breed and elevated it to celebrity status. They refined its look, standardized the now famous grooming styles, and turned the poodle into a symbol of elegance. But make no mistake, the heart of a working dog still beat beneath that chic exterior. Let's talk about the elephant, or rather the pom-pom in the room. The poodle's extravagant haircut has sparked jokes for centuries, but originally it had nothing to do with fashion and everything to do with function. Hunters needed their dogs to move swiftly through water while staying warm and protected. So they shaved parts of the poodle's body to reduce drag, but left tufts of hair around vital organs and joints to guard against the cold. Those rounded puffs on the ankles, chest and tail, early sportswear for dogs. Of course, once the breed caught the eye of aristocrats, practicality took a backseat to style. The trims became more elaborate, and soon poodles were strutting through palaces instead of marshes. But every time a poodle enters a grooming competition today, it's really just paying homage to its rugged, duck-fetching ancestors. One of the poodle's greatest tricks was learning to reinvent itself without losing its essence. Over time, breeders realized that this adaptable dog could serve different roles in different sizes. The standard poodle was the original, the athlete, the hunter, the swimmer. Proud, powerful, and graceful, it was the blueprint for the breed. Then came the miniature poodle, bred down in size to work as a truffle hunter and companion to city dwellers who didn't have space for a full-sized retriever in their Paris apartment. Finally, the toy poodle arrived, not as a fashion accessory, but as a clever, portable companion for nobility. Small enough to sit on laps during long carriage rides, but sharp enough to entertain and alert its owners to any approaching visitors. Despite the size differences, every poodle, from towering standards to pint-sized toys, shares the same core traits: intelligence, elegance, and a playful sense of humor. If dog breeds were ranked by IQ, the poodle would be sitting comfortably near the top, probably correcting the test questions while it's at it. Poodles are famously clever. They pick up commands with ease, often learning complex tasks after just a few repetitions. But they don't just obey, they think. A poodle will solve problems, figure out how to get what it wants, and sometimes outsmart its owners in ways that leave you both frustrated and impressed. This sharp mind made them stars in more than just hunting fields and royal courts. Poodles became performers, dazzling audiences in circuses across Europe with their ability to learn tricks, dance, and even mimic human behavior. There's a reason you'll find so many old paintings of poodles dressed up in costumes. These dogs were entertainers long before social media existed. But their intelligence isn't just for show. Modern poodles excel in obedience trials, agility courses, and even therapy work. They're as comfortable weaving through poles as they are offering comfort in hospitals and care homes. For centuries, poodles were associated with nobility and high society. Kings, queens, and artists all adored them. Even Napoleon Bonaparte's wife, Josephine, had a poodle who reportedly delivered messages hidden in its collar while she was imprisoned. Yet, despite their aristocratic associations, poodles never lost touch with everyday people. Their versatility made them equally beloved by farmers, hunters, performers, and families. They were adaptable, easy to train, and, thanks to their hypoallergenic coat, perfect for households where other dogs might cause sneezing fits. By the 20th century, poodles weren't just status symbols. They were everywhere, from Hollywood sets to suburban homes. And when the American Kennel Club officially recognized the breed in 1887, it only cemented their place as one of the world's favorite companions. There's a hidden truth about poodles that surprises those who judge them by their looks. Beneath that stylish coat is a body built for sport. The standard poodle, in particular, is a powerhouse of agility and endurance. These dogs don't just prance. They run, leap, swim, and excel in competitions that leave other breeds panting in their wake. Poodles thrive when given a job, whether that's retrieving, running obstacle courses, or mastering advanced obedience routines. Left without mental and physical stimulation, they'll invent their own entertainment, which often involves redecorating your living room or unlocking gates you thought were secure. They're playful, mischievous, and always 2 steps ahead. A bored poodle is a prankster waiting to happen. While poodles are generally robust and long-lived, especially for a purebred, each size comes with its own health considerations. Standard poodles can face issues like hip dysplasia and certain autoimmune disorders. Miniatures and toys are more prone to eye problems and joint concerns due to their smaller frames. And then there's the coat. That glorious, curly, non-shedding coat that makes them a favorite among allergy sufferers also demands regular grooming. Left unattended, it mats quickly, turning your elegant companion into something resembling a walking shrubbery. But most poodle owners will tell you that grooming becomes part of the bond, a chance to connect with a dog that somehow manages to look dignified even while being blow-dried. With proper care, it's not uncommon for poodles, especially the smaller varieties, to live well into their mid-teens, remaining sharp, sprightly, and slightly sassy until the very end. In a world obsessed with trends, the poodle has done what few canines, or humans, manage. It stayed relevant for centuries without ever compromising what makes it unique. Today, poodles are everywhere. They're winning agility championships, working as service dogs starring in films, and yes, still strutting their stuff in show rings with those elaborate clips that nod to their heritage. They've even sparked a whole new category of dogs, the doodle revolution. Labradoodles, golden doodles, Berndoodles, the list goes on. While these mixes have their own charm, let's not forget who brings the brains and curls to the equation. It's always the poodle half doing the heavy lifting. Yet despite all the modern fame and fashionable trims, the soul of the poodle remains unchanged. Give it a pond, a ball, and a bit of praise, and you'll see the working dog beneath the glamour. The poodle's story is one of misperceptions and quiet triumph. Too often dismissed as pampered or pretentious, those who truly know the breed understand that behind every well-groomed poodle is a dog of remarkable depth. Loyal, intelligent, athletic, and endlessly adaptable. It's a dog that can switch from royal companion to circus performer, from hunting partner to therapy dog without missing a beat. It doesn't need to prove anything, it never did. The poodle knows what it is. A survivor, a thinker, and if necessary, the star of the show. So, next time you see a poodle trotting by, chin held high and curls bouncing with every step, remember you're not just looking at a dog with a fancy haircut. You're looking at one of history's greatest shapeshifters. a working-class hero wrapped in silk and smarts. A reminder that elegance and toughness aren't opposites. They're just two sides of the poodle's perfectly groomed coin. The Dachshund. The long, low legend that dug its way into our hearts. Some breeds were made to run, others to swim, but the Dachshund was made to dig, and to do it with style. With a body like a sausage on 4 tiny stilts and a confidence level that could rival a lion's, the Dachshund is one of the most recognizable dogs on the planet. But behind that comical silhouette and those soulful eyes is a history rooted in bravery, hunting prowess, and a touch of stubborn genius. This is not just a cute dog in a funny shape. This is a story of a fearless hunter, a royal companion, and a breed that never got the memo about being small. To understand the Dachshund, you need to forget everything you think you know about lapdogs. The name itself is a dead giveaway. Dachs means badger, and Hund means dog in German. That's right, the Dachshund was literally bred to go head-to-head with badgers. In 15th century Germany, hunters needed a dog that could do what others wouldn't dare. Chase fierce, sharp-clawed badgers into their underground dens and force them out. They needed a dog low enough to the ground to enter tight burrows, strong enough to fight if necessary, and bold enough to dive into the dark without hesitation. So they created the Dachshund. Long, muscular, and fearless. A dog with a chest deep enough to hold strong lungs for barking underground, legs short enough to maneuver through tunnels, and paws shaped like shovels for digging. Early Dachshunds were larger than today's companions, some weighing up to 35 pounds. These were serious working dogs bred for grit over cuteness. And they weren't just limited to badgers. Different sizes were developed for hunting foxes, rabbits, and even wild boar. Yes, wild boar. Imagine a creature the size of a loaf of bread charging at a beast 10 times its size and winning. As time passed and Europe modernized, the Dachshund's role as a fierce subterranean hunter began to fade. But people had fallen in love with the breed's spunk, intelligence, and undeniable charm. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Dachshunds had trotted their way into the homes of nobles and royals. They were still admired for their hunting skills, but more often they were found warming laps and entertaining guests with their playful antics. It was during this era that the breed began to shrink, both in size and in ferocity. Breeders focused on developing smaller versions suitable for hunting smaller game and, increasingly, for companionship. The miniature Dachshund became the darling of European parlours, while the standard Dachshund retained a bit more of its rugged past. Queen Victoria herself was a devoted Dachshund owner, famously saying, "Nothing will turn a man's home into a castle more quickly and effectively than a Dachshund." When royalty speaks, trends follow, and soon the breed's popularity spread far beyond Germany's borders. One of the Dachshund's most charming features, aside from its unmistakable silhouette, is its variety. Over the centuries, 3 distinct coat types emerged, each reflecting a different aspect of the breed's working heritage. The smooth-coated Dachshund was the original. Sleek, low maintenance, and perfect for slipping through tight tunnels. Then came the wire-haired Dachshund, with a rougher exterior designed to protect against brambles and harsher terrain. These scruffy little adventurers often come with an extra dose of mischief in their eyes. Finally, the long-haired dachshund arrived, thought to be the result of crossbreeding with spaniels. Elegant and flowing, these dachshunds were built for colder climates and, let's face it, for turning heads. Each coat type came with its own personality quirks. Wiry ones often being the most spirited, long-haired a bit more laid back, and smooth somewhere in between. But no matter the coat, all shared the same core traits: courage, cleverness, and a stubborn streak as long as their bodies. Ask any dachshund owner and they'll tell you this is not a dog that blindly follows orders. Dachshunds are thinkers. Independent to the core, they were bred to make decisions without waiting for human instruction. After all, when you're underground, face-to-face with a badger, there's no time to check in with your handler. This independence translates into what many lovingly call selective hearing. A dachshund knows exactly what you're asking. It just wants to weigh the pros and cons before deciding if it's worth its time. Training a dachshund isn't about dominance. It's about negotiation, patience, and a sense of humor. They respond best to positive reinforcement and, of course, the right motivation, usually in the form of treats. But beneath that stubborn streak lies a fiercely loyal heart. Once a dachshund decides you're part of its pack, you're protected for life. Whether from mailmen, squirrels, or suspicious-looking garden gnomes. The dachshund's German roots caused unexpected trouble during the World Wars. As anti-German sentiment spread, the breed faced declining popularity in countries like the United States and Britain. To protect the breed's image, some people rebranded them as Liberty Hounds, hoping a patriotic name would help them avoid backlash. It was a rough period for the little dog with the big bark, but the dachshund's resilience shone through. After the wars, their charm won people over once again, and by the mid-20th century, they had reclaimed their place as beloved family companions worldwide. Today, no one remembers the politics, just the personality. Of course, being shaped like a hot dog on legs isn't without its challenges. The dachshund's signature long back makes them prone to intervertebral disc disease, IVDD, a spinal condition that can cause pain or even paralysis. It's why responsible owners discourage jumping from heights or excessive stair climbing, though try telling a determined dachshund not to launch itself off the couch when it smells a snack hit the floor. Despite their structural quirks, dachshunds are generally hardy little dogs, often living well into their teens. Their size makes them adaptable to both city apartments and country homes, as long as they get regular walks and plenty of mental stimulation. Because while their legs may be short, their energy and curiosity runs deep. Few breeds have captured the public imagination quite like the dachshund. Its unique shape has made it a favorite subject for artists, cartoonists, and advertisers. From appearing in Picasso's sketches to becoming the unofficial mascot of Oktoberfest celebrations, the dachshund has long embraced its role as a cultural icon. Perhaps the most whimsical tribute is the famous dachshund races, where dozens of eager little dogs dash down tracks in a blur of ears and enthusiasm, though some prefer to stop midway for a sniff or a chat with the competition. And who could forget the endless parade of novelty items? Dachshund-shaped cushions, mugs, and of course, the classic dachshund in a hot dog costume every Halloween. No other breed wears self-parody quite so well. The dachshund is proof that size is no measure of courage or charisma. What began as a fearless badger hunter evolved into a loyal companion, a cultural icon, and a reminder that being different is something to celebrate. They may be low to the ground, but their spirit soars. They're stubborn, yes, but also endlessly loving, fiercely protective, and always ready to make you laugh, whether by chasing a leaf twice their size or burrowing under the blankets like it's their ancestral duty. Living with a dachshund means accepting that you'll never truly be in charge. But in return, you get a companion who will stand by you, defiantly, proudly, and with a wag of that ever-determined tail. Because in the world of dogs, few have walked a longer path, literally and figuratively, than the dachshund. And they did it all on legs that barely reached the ground. The Golden Retriever. How one dog became everyone's best friend. If there were a contest for most likely to brighten your day, the Golden Retriever would win. Every single time. With that trademark goofy grin, a tail that wags like it's powered by a motor, and a heart so big it barely fits in its furry chest, the Golden Retriever isn't just a dog, it's a lifestyle. But where did this endlessly cheerful creature come from? Why is it called a retriever? And how did it go from Scottish estates to suburban backyards, therapy rooms, and Instagram fame? Here's the story of how the Golden Retriever became, well, golden. Our story starts, as many good stories do, with a Scottish nobleman who had a hobby and perhaps a bit too much free time. In the mid-1800s, Dudley Marjoribanks, better known as Lord Tweedmouth because apparently titles were cooler back then, decided that he wanted the perfect hunting dog. Not just any hunting dog, a dog that could handle the rainy Scottish Highlands, retrieve game from both land and water, and look good doing it. At the time, hunting was less about survival and more about showing off. You didn't just need a dog that could fetch. You needed a dog that could fetch with flair. Lord Tweedmouth, being a man of vision and clearly a fan of canine innovation, began experimenting. In 1868, he crossed a yellow-coloured, wavy-coated retriever named News, the only yellow pup from an otherwise black-coated litter, with a tweed water spaniel named Belle. For context, the tweed water spaniel is now extinct, but back then it was known for being smart, loyal, and an excellent swimmer. The result? A litter of puppies that had the best of both worlds. Intelligence, a love of water, a gentle mouth for retrieving game birds, and a beautiful golden coat. Voila, the foundation of the Golden Retriever. Lord Tweedmouth didn't stop there. Over the next few decades, he refined the breed by introducing bloodhound for scenting skills and Irish setter for a bit of style and elegance. By the late 19th century, the Golden Retriever, though not yet called that, was starting to turn heads. Now, about that name, you'd think Golden Retriever would have been an obvious choice from the start. But no, it took a while. Originally, these dogs were referred to as yellow retrievers or golden flatcoats, which, let's be honest, sounds more like a pancake recipe than a dog breed. It wasn't until 1911 that the Kennel Club, UK, officially recognised them as retriever, yellow or golden. Finally, in 1920, someone had the good sense to streamline it to what we know today. Golden Retriever. Simple, elegant, accurate. Across the pond, the American Kennel Club, AKC, caught on in 1925, and from there the Golden Retriever's rise to stardom began. Let's take a moment to appreciate the aesthetics. The Golden Retriever isn't just a pretty face. It's a very pretty face. Golden Retrievers come in shades ranging from pale cream to rich, almost coppery gold. The breed standard calls for a dense, water-repellent double coat, perfect for those Highland hunts, or, more commonly today, impromptu swims in your neighbour's pool. Their eyes? Soft, kind, and permanently wearing that "I'm just happy to be here" expression. Their ears flop forward like they're always mid-listen to your every word, even if they're really just waiting for walk or treat. And let's not forget the tail, that feathery plume of joy that wags with such enthusiasm it could clear a coffee table in one swipe. Fun fact: there are subtle differences between British, American and Canadian Goldens. British Goldens tend to be stockier with lighter coats, American ones are leaner and often a bit darker in colour. Canadians, somewhere in between but with a slightly thinner coat. If you could bottle happiness, it would probably bark and have fur. Golden Retrievers are famous for their temperament. They're friendly, patient, eager to please, and, let's be honest, not the best guard dogs. A burglar would likely leave with your TV and a new best friend. They rank consistently as one of the most intelligent dog breeds, but don't let that fool you. Goldens have a playful streak that lasts well beyond puppyhood. Chewed shoes, stolen socks, and random zoomies across the living room are part of the package. But it's their gentle nature that truly sets them apart. This is a dog that knows how to read a room. Whether it's comforting a child, assisting someone with disabilities, or just being a loyal companion, Goldens have an almost magical ability to connect with people. While they were bred to retrieve game birds, Golden Retrievers quickly expanded their resume. Today, they're the Swiss Army knife of the dog world. Guide dogs. Their intelligence and calm demeanour make them ideal for leading the visually impaired. Therapy dogs, hospitals, nursing homes, schools, wherever people need comfort, Goldens are on the job. Search and rescue. That bloodhound ancestry pays off. Goldens have helped locate missing persons in disasters worldwide. Detection dogs. Yes, they can sniff out contraband too, though they'll do it with a wagging tail. And of course, they've conquered Hollywood. From Air Bud to countless commercials, Golden Retrievers have been typecast as the lovable family dog. And honestly, they don't seem to mind. No breed is perfect, and Goldens sadly have their share of health concerns. One of the biggest issues facing the breed is a predisposition to cancer. Studies suggest that up to 60% of Golden Retrievers in the US may die from cancer, a heartbreaking statistic. They're also prone to hip and elbow dysplasia, heart conditions like subvalvular aortic stenosis, eye problems including cataracts, skin allergies, and of course, ear infections, thanks to those floppy ears trapping moisture after every swim. Their average lifespan is around 10 to 12 years, though many live longer with good care, regular vet visits, and a healthy diet, plus keeping them from eating that entire loaf of bread they just stole off the counter. Fun facts to make you love them even more. The world record for the most tennis balls held in a dog's mouth. A Golden Retriever named Finley, with 6 tennis balls. Because why fetch one when you can fetch 6? Goldens have an instinct called a soft mouth, meaning they can carry things delicately. They were bred to retrieve birds without leaving so much as a dent. Some Goldens have been trained to carry raw eggs in their mouths without breaking them. Talk about self-control. In 2018, a Golden Retriever named Frida was awarded a medal and had a statue erected in her honor for her work in search and rescue after a devastating earthquake in Mexico. The 8-year-old pup, who worked as a sniffer with the Mexican Navy's canine unit, was credited with saving at least 12 lives as she searched the rubble following the quake. There's an annual event called Goldie Palooza in California where hundreds of golden retrievers gather. Imagine a sea of golden fluff and wagging tails. That's heaven on earth. The Golden Retriever Club of Scotland organised a gathering in 2018 at the breed's birthplace, Gwisashan Estate, where 361 golden retrievers posed for a group photo. That's a lot of smiling dogs. Again, heaven on earth. So why did the Golden Retriever become the poster pup for family dogs, therapy work, and general good vibes? It's simple. Goldens embody the qualities we admire: loyalty, kindness, enthusiasm for the little things like a stick or a puddle, and an endless capacity for love. They don't care who you are, what you do, or whether you've had a bad day. To a Golden Retriever, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And they'd like a piece of that too, please. From the misty highlands of Scotland to millions of homes around the world, the Golden Retriever's journey is more than just the story of a dog breed. It's a reminder of the bond between humans and animals. How a nobleman's quest for the perfect hunting companion accidentally gave us the perfect friend. Sure, they shed like it's their job. Yes, they'll roll in mud 5 minutes after a bath. But when a Golden Retriever looks at you with those soulful eyes and leans in for a cuddle, none of that matters. Because at the end of the day, they're not just golden in colour. They're golden at heart. The Yorkshire Terrier. How a tiny terrier took on the world and won. When most people picture a Yorkshire Terrier, they see a glamorous little dog, perhaps sporting a bow, peeking out of a designer handbag, or trotting confidently through a city park like it owns the place. But don't be fooled by the polished exterior. The Yorkie wasn't bred for decoration. It was bred for battle. Not against wolves or intruders, but against something far more common and far sneakier: rats. Yes, before it became a symbol of sophistication, the Yorkshire Terrier was a working dog through and through, a fearless, no-nonsense ratter that made its living chasing vermin through the dark corners of 19th century factories and mines. This is a story of how determination, adaptability, and a bit of attitude turned a scrappy little terrier into one of the most beloved toy breeds in the world. The tale begins in the mid-1800s, during England's Industrial Revolution. The county of Yorkshire was a land of booming mills, coal mines, and textile factories. Life was tough, noisy, and dirty, and where there were factories, there were rats. Lots of them. Workers needed a solution, and they found it in the form of small, agile terriers that could slip into tight spaces and clear out vermin with speed and precision. These weren't pampered pets, they were tools, valued for their efficiency, not their appearance. The ancestors of the Yorkshire Terrier were likely a mix of several breeds brought to northern England by Scottish workers seeking employment. Among them were the Paisley Terrier and the now extinct Clydesdale Terrier, both small, wiry hunters with long, silky coats. Through selective breeding, a new type of terrier emerged. Small enough to fit in a pocket, brave enough to take on rodents twice its size, and clever enough to thrive in the harshest environments. Thus the early Yorkshire Terrier was born, not as a lapdog, but as a fearless factory worker. It didn't take long for people to notice that these tough little dogs had more than just work ethic. They had style. That distinctive blue and tan coat, fine and silky like spun gold, began to catch the eye of those outside the working class. Suddenly the Yorkie wasn't just a rat catcher. It was a conversation piece. By the late 1800s, the breed made its way from the factory floor to the show ring. Breeders refined its appearance, focusing on that flowing coat and compact size while preserving the terrier tenacity beneath. In 1886, the Kennel Club, UK, officially recognised the Yorkshire Terrier as a distinct breed. What was once a scrappy worker became a symbol of Victorian elegance, though anyone who tried to treat it like a dainty ornament quickly learned that the Yorkie still had the heart of a street fighter. The Yorkshire Terrier played a key role in establishing what we now know as the toy group of dog breeds. But unlike some lapdogs bred solely for companionship, the Yorkie never forgot its working roots. Even as it shrank in size, breeders favouring smaller and smaller specimens for their novelty, the Yorkie's personality remained larger than life. By the early 20th century, Yorkies had become the must-have companion for fashionable ladies across Britain and, soon after, America. Their portability, striking appearance, and sharp wit made them ideal city dogs. But beneath the ribbons and brushed coats, they retained a fierce independence and a natural suspicion of anything that moved too quickly, especially if it squeaked. Perhaps the most famous Yorkshire Terrier in history wasn't known for winning shows, but for saving lives. During World War II, a tiny, scrappy Yorkie named Smokey was found in a foxhole in New Guinea by an American soldier. Weighing just 4 pounds, Smokey became more than a mascot. She served as a war dog, running telegraph wires through narrow pipes, a task too dangerous and tight for human soldiers. Smokey survived 150 air raids, entertained troops with her tricks, and even helped build an airfield by pulling lines through debris. After the war, Smokey became a celebrity. Performing on TV and in hospitals, one of the earliest therapy dogs long before the term existed. Her story is a testament to the breed's resilience, intelligence, and unwavering spirit, even in the face of war. Today's Yorkshire Terrier is instantly recognizable. That glossy steel blue and tan coat flows to the floor in show dogs parted neatly down the middle, like a Victorian-era fashion statement. But don't let the glamour fool you. This coat, while beautiful, is high maintenance. It grows continuously, much like human hair, which means regular grooming is a must unless clipped short in what many pet owners call a puppy cut. Beneath that luxurious exterior is a compact, athletic frame. Yorkies typically weigh no more than 7 pounds, but they carry themselves with the confidence of a dog 10 times their size. Their dark, expressive eyes gleam with curiosity and just a hint of mischief, while their small, upright ears are always tuned to the slightest sound, ready to alert their humans to anything from an approaching visitor to a leaf blowing across the yard. If the Yorkshire Terrier had a motto, it would be simple: I may be small, but I run this house. Yorkies are classic terriers, bold, intelligent, and bursting with personality. They're fiercely loyal to their people, often attaching themselves to one or two favourite humans and following them from room to room like a shadow with opinions. They're alert and vocal, quick to announce any perceived threat, whether it's a knock at the door or a pigeon landing too close to the window. For all their elegance, they're natural watchdogs, just in a more compact form. Training a Yorkie requires patience and a sense of humour. They're smart enough to learn quickly, but independent enough to decide when, or if, they feel like complying. Positive reinforcement works wonders, especially when paired with treats befitting their refined tastes. Despite their feisty nature, Yorkies are affectionate and thrive on human companionship. They're happiest when they're part of the action, whether that's accompanying you on errands or curling up beside you after a long day, preferably somewhere they can keep an eye on everything. One of the joys of owning a Yorkshire Terrier is their impressive lifespan. Many Yorkies live well into their teens, with some reaching 15 years or more. But like all breeds, they have their vulnerabilities. Their small size makes them prone to dental issues, fragile bones, especially when they decide to launch themselves off furniture, and conditions like luxating patella and tracheal collapse. They also have sensitive tummies, often preferring diets as selective as their social circles. Yet with proper care, regular vet checkups, and a bit of indulgence, which they'll demand anyway, Yorkies remain sprightly and sharp well into their golden years. In today's world, the Yorkshire Terrier is as popular as ever. Consistently ranking among the top breeds in urban areas, they've mastered the art of modern living. Compact enough for apartment life, but adventurous enough for outdoor escapades. As long as the weather agrees, Yorkies are notorious for disliking rain. They've starred in movies, been carried by celebrities, and become Instagram sensations. But beneath the fame, every Yorkie still carries that spark of its ancestors. The little dog with the courage to face down a rat twice its size, or a stranger daring to enter its domain. They don't know they're small, and they wouldn't care if they did. The Yorkshire Terrier's journey from the soot-covered mills of northern England to the polished floors of high society is a story of adaptability, courage, and a refusal to be underestimated. They've gone from rat hunters to fashion icons, from war heroes to beloved companions, and through it all, they've remained true to themselves, spirited, smart, and unapologetically bold. To live with a Yorkie is to share your life with a creature that believes deep in its tiny heart that it's the biggest presence in any room. And honestly, it usually is. Because when you pack that much attitude, loyalty, and charm into 7 pounds of fur and fire, you don't just walk through history, you strut. The Cane Corso. The silent guardian, with a legacy forged in loyalty and strength. Some dogs were bred to chase, some to retrieve. But the Cane Corso was bred to stand firm, to guard what matters, to face down threats without fear, and to serve as a living reminder that true power doesn't need to boast. With muscles carved like a statue, a head held high, and eyes that assess rather than plead, the Cane Corso is a breed apart. It doesn't beg for treats. It doesn't seek approval from strangers. It knows its job, and it does it with quiet confidence. But how did this noble guardian come to be? And how did it survive centuries of change, war, and near extinction to reclaim its place as one of the world's most respected working dogs? Let's return to ancient Italy, where the story begins, not in palaces but on battlefields. The cane corso's roots stretch back over 2,000 years to the days of the Roman Empire. Descended from the mighty Canis pugnax, a type of Roman war dog, the cane corso was bred to march alongside soldiers, charge enemy lines and guard encampments. These weren't decorative dogs, they were warriors, valued for their strength, intelligence, and unwavering loyalty. As the Roman Empire expanded, so too did the reputation of these mastiff-type dogs. But when the empire fell, the cane corso didn't disappear. Instead, it adapted. In the rural landscapes of southern Italy, the descendants of these war dogs found new roles, not as conquerors, but as guardians and workers. For centuries, the cane corso became an essential part of Italian farm life. Its name offers a clue: cane, meaning dog, and corso, believed to derive from cohors, the Latin word for guardian or protector. This wasn't a dog kept for companionship alone. The cane corso worked, guarding property, livestock, and families from predators and thieves. It herded cattle, pulled carts, and even hunted large game like wild boar when needed. Its athletic build, sharper and more agile than some of its mastiff cousins, made it versatile. It was powerful enough to intimidate, fast enough to act, and smart enough to know when simply standing watch was enough. For generations, the cane corso was the quiet hero of the Italian countryside. Respected, reliable, and always present where protection was needed. The modern world, however, had little need for farm guardians or boar hunters. As Italy industrialized and rural life changed, the cane corso's purpose began to fade. By the mid-20th century, after 2 world wars devastated Europe, the cane corso was nearly extinct. Only a few survived, tucked away in remote villages where tradition held on a little longer. It wasn't until the 1970s that a group of Italian enthusiasts, recognizing the cultural and historical value of the breed, began efforts to revive it. They scoured the countryside for remaining corsos and started careful breeding programs to restore the dog to its former glory. Their work paid off. The breed was recognized by the Ente Nazionale della Cinofilia Italiana in 1994. It was provisionally accepted by the Fédération Cynologique Internationale in 1996 and received full acceptance in 2007. It was recognized by the American Kennel Club of the United States in 2010. The Guardian had returned, not as a relic of the past, but as a breed ready to serve in the modern world. There's no mistaking a cane corso when it enters a room, or stands quietly at your gate. Standing between 24 to 28 inches at the shoulder and weighing up to 110 pounds, the cane corso is the definition of muscular grace. Unlike the bulkier English Mastiff or Neapolitan Mastiff, the corso is leaner, built for speed as much as strength. Its broad head, square jaw, and intense gaze command respect without a sound. The ears are often cropped in traditional circles, though this practice is fading, adding to their alert expression. The tail, historically docked to prevent injury during work, is now often left natural. Their short, dense coat comes in shades of black, grey, fawn, red, and brindle, colours that seem to suit their no-nonsense demeanour. But despite their imposing appearance, there's a quiet nobility to the cane corso. It doesn't puff up its chest or bark excessively. It doesn't need to. The cane corso's personality can be summed up in one word: devotion. This is a dog that lives for its family. Protective by nature, corsos form deep bonds with their people and take their role as guardians seriously, sometimes a little too seriously if not properly socialized. They are not aggressive by default, but they are discerning. A cane corso doesn't greet strangers like a Labrador. It watches, waits, and decides if you're worth its tail wag. With those they trust, corsos are affectionate, even gentle, leaning into their humans for attention, shadowing them from room to room, and keeping a quiet eye on everything that matters. But this loyalty comes with responsibility. The cane corso is not a dog for first-time owners or those looking for a low-maintenance companion. They need leadership, structure, and a clear understanding of their place within the household. Without guidance, a cane corso will take charge, because someone has to, and they assume you're not up to the task. Corsos are thinkers. They were bred to assess situations, make decisions, and act independently when guarding livestock or property. This intelligence makes them highly trainable, but only if the human on the other end of the leash is consistent and confident. They thrive when given a job, whether that's formal protection work, obedience training, agility, yes, they're surprisingly agile, or simply being involved in daily routines. A bored cane corso is not ideal. Without mental and physical stimulation, they can become destructive, not out of malice, but because a working dog without work will find something to do. And you probably won't like their version of interior decorating. Like many large breeds, the cane corso faces health challenges tied to its size. Hip and elbow dysplasia are common concerns, as are heart conditions such as dilated cardiomyopathy. Their lifespan averages around 9 to 12 years, which, while typical for giant breeds, always feels too short for those who've experienced the quiet companionship of a corso. Proper diet, exercise, and responsible breeding are key to ensuring a healthy, balanced dog. And while they may look like they could survive on raw meat and intimidation alone, corsos actually benefit from careful nutritional management to support those powerful frames. In today's world, the cane corso has found new roles that honor its heritage. They serve as personal protection dogs, estate guardians, and even excel in dog sports that challenge both body and mind. Yet, more and more they're also cherished as family companions, provided that families understand what it means to live with a dog that was bred to protect, think, and act. The cane corso isn't for everyone, and it doesn't want to be. It doesn't seek popularity. It doesn't need viral videos or fancy accessories. It needs respect, purpose, and a family willing to understand that behind those watchful eyes is a dog whose only goal is to keep you safe. The cane corso's story is one of survival, not just in the physical sense, but in preserving a spirit that modern life so often forgets. It's a reminder that strength doesn't have to be loud, that loyalty doesn't come with conditions, and that sometimes the best kind of love is the silent presence of a dog who watches the world so you don't have to. To be chosen by a cane corso, to earn its trust and devotion, is an experience like no other. It's not about tricks or tail wags for strangers. It's about a bond forged quietly day by day until you realize that you're never truly alone. Because somewhere nearby, a pair of steady eyes is watching. Not out of suspicion, but out of love. And in that moment, you understand why, for centuries, people have entrusted their homes, their flocks, and their lives to the cane corso, the guardian who never needed words to say, "I've got you." The Pomeranian, the tiny dog with a royal past and a king-sized ego. Some dogs were bred to hunt, some to herd. The Pomeranian? It was bred to rule, or at least that's what it believes. With a plume of fur, a fox-like grin, and a strut that says, "You may approach me now," the Pomeranian is living proof that confidence isn't measured in inches. It's measured in attitude, and this little dog has it in spades. But how did a dog once related to sled pullers in the Arctic become the lapdog of queens, artists, and influencers alike? Let's follow the paw prints back to a colder, larger beginning. It might be hard to believe when looking at today's dainty Pomeranian, but its ancestors were anything but tiny. The Pomeranian descends from the Spitz family, northern working dogs known for their thick coats, pointed ears, and tails curled proudly over their backs. These were robust, medium to large dogs bred to haul sleds, herd livestock, and survive harsh climates. The breed takes its name from the region of Pomerania, a stretch of land along the Baltic Sea, now part of modern-day Poland and Germany. Here, the Spitz-type dogs were gradually bred down in size, not for pulling sleds anymore, but for companionship and guarding homes. Because even then they had a bark that could wake the dead. But it wasn't until these fluffy companions caught the eye of European nobility that their transformation truly began. The turning point in the Pomeranian story came in the 18th century, when Queen Charlotte of England brought a pair of Pomeranians to court. However, these were still relatively large dogs by today's standards, closer to 20 to 30 pounds. It was her granddaughter, Queen Victoria, who would forever change the fate and size of the breed. During a visit to Italy in 1888, Queen Victoria fell in love with a small Pomeranian named Marco. Weighing just 12 pounds, Marco became the Queen's constant companion and the toast of British high society. Under Victoria's influence, breeders began selecting for smaller and smaller Pomeranians, favouring the compact size we know today. By the time of her death, Queen Victoria owned over 30 Pomeranians, and the breed had cemented its place as a symbol of elegance and status. From there, the Pom's rise to stardom was unstoppable. The modern Pomeranian is a masterclass in deceptive appearances. At first glance, it's a walking pom-pom, light, fluffy, and delicate. But beneath that glamorous double coat lies a sturdy little frame and a personality far too big for its body. Weighing between 3 to 7 pounds, the Pom carries itself with the confidence of a lion surveying its kingdom. Its fox-like face, bright almond-shaped eyes, and ever-alert ears give it an expression of constant curiosity, and perhaps a hint of mischief. The tail, a signature feature, arches proudly over the back like a feathered crown, while the coat comes in nearly every colour imaginable. Orange, black, cream, blue, sable, chocolate, and more. But don't be fooled by the fluff. The Pomeranian isn't just a lap ornament. It's a watchdog, a performer, and a schemer, all rolled into one irresistible package. If the Pomeranian could talk, and many owners will swear they try, it would likely introduce itself with, "I'm in charge here." Poms are famously bold, curious, and brimming with self-importance. They're the kind of dog that will challenge a Great Dane without a second thought, because no one ever told them they're small. They're fiercely loyal to their people, often attaching themselves to one or two favorite humans and keeping a close, sometimes supervisory, eye on household affairs. Strangers? They'll get a polite but wary welcome, often announced with a surprisingly loud bark for such a tiny creature. Pomeranians are intelligent and quick learners, but they come with a hefty dose of independence. Training a Pom is less about teaching them how to do something and more about convincing them it's their idea. They thrive on attention and love to perform, whether that's showing off a trick or simply spinning in circles because they know it makes you laugh. It wasn't just royalty who fell for the charms of the Pomeranian. Throughout history, Poms have shared the spotlight with some of the world's greatest minds and entertainers. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart dedicated an aria to his beloved Pomeranian. Michelangelo's Pom reportedly sat on a satin pillow watching him paint the Sistine Chapel. Even Sir Isaac Newton had a Pomeranian named Diamond, who, legend has it, once knocked over a candle and destroyed months of his work, proving that even geniuses aren't immune to Pom-induced chaos. In modern times, Pomeranians have become staples in celebrity culture and social media, from red carpets to viral videos. Few can resist the combination of fluff, sass, and star power. One of the Pomeranian's many perks is its longevity. With good care, Poms often live 12 to 16 years, remaining sprightly and opinionated well into their senior years. However, they do come with some health considerations. Their small size makes them prone to dental issues, luxating patella, knee problems, and a condition called tracheal collapse, which gives some Poms their characteristic honking cough. That glorious